2 and 2 is not 4 in today's world. That brings up a concern that I have about if this weather keeps up. Like last summer, we had rain. We just had rain. I think we had 2 or 3 days of sun. That's it, the whole growing season. And that hasn't changed much since last year. Here it is February. That hasn't changed much at all this last year. We get very little sun. It's cloud cover, folks. It's just cloud cover. Now, in order to grow food, in order to have a garden, you need sun, right? Or artificial light, right? Or artificial light. So if we have, even if we don't get all the rain that we got last summer, I'm talking about here in Maine. I'm not sure where y'all are at, but here in Maine, I know Maine has really struggled with their garden because of all the rain and lack of sun, and it was cool, right? I had a fire going in my stove at least 1 or 2 days every month last summer, right? That's cool. So it's not cool as in cool man, it's cool as in temperature, right? So what if we get a replica of last growing season? The sun just isn't shining anymore. It's hidden behind the clouds. In order to grow, maybe you can get away with shade-tolerant plants, right? Which is where I'm going this year. I am growing things that will take little sun. Like a lot of your spinach will grow in a shady spot. Beets, a lot of things will grow in a shady spot, but some things need full sun. And if you plant vegetables that require full sun and you do not get sun, you're not going to get a very good crop whatsoever, right? The plants will be stunted. Lack of sun could create some diseases, right? So what do? You could always have a greenhouse. You could either buy one, you could build one. A little greenhouse that'll keep the plants warmer and the ground warmer that they're growing in. You could put artificial lights out there, right? Or you could not have a garden at all. You could plant everything that you think would tolerate the moisture if it's another rainy season, and plants that don't require full sun, and maybe try that. Either way, nothing is guaranteed. That's what a lot of new gardeners do not realize, that there is so much involved in just the knowledge and skill on planting. And if you're starting out with raw land, it takes a good 3 years of amending the soil for that to get to a point where you're going to get a pantry of food, right? So what do you do? What do you do because here in Maine, we have a very short growing season. I mean, like 3 months. 3 months. Like cabbage and kale and all the stuff that will tolerate cold or a light frost, you should be able to get away with that. But if there's no sun, things are going to be stunted, right? So is it buying a greenhouse? Is it building a greenhouse? Then if there's lack of sun, do you somehow, like I don't have any power here, so I would have to spend some money in order to get artificial lights, right? Grow lights, and then put them, and then there's where the heck am I going to put a greenhouse? So the best place would be up in my garden. But folks, when you try to self-sustain and the weather doesn't cooperate, it's pretty hard to grow a lot of your food. So that's what I'm doing this year. I'm going to grow things that like their feet wet or damp, something that will tolerate little sun. That's what I'm going to do for the majority of my crops this year for my garden. Will it turn out? Will this weather pattern change? Well, I kind of hope it will, but I hope it doesn't go in the extreme like we had a couple of summers ago, where it was so hot and so sunny and so dry that you was constantly, or I was constantly watering my garden, and I have to haul my water here. It's not like I can turn on a faucet or run a sprinkler system. I can't do that. I have to go down to the bog, grab bucket by bucket, and haul it the whole length, all uphill, to my garden. And it takes quite a bit of water to water your garden. So it could turn out hot and dry with no rain. It could. So I'm just going to go on the weather pattern that we've been seeing, plant the majority of my garden with that, and then plant the rest of my garden like we're going to have a drought. It's kind of mix and match, right? Long season, short season, right? That's what I'm going to do. I don't know where y'all are at. I know you're from all over. So maybe you can write in the comment below what your plans are. Give me some suggestions on what I could do on my end, and maybe we can come up with a plan for something that fits everyone. I don't know, folks. There is a concern with the increased cloudiness, the increased cool weather, and trying to self-sustain as much as you can by growing your own food. Is it by design? I could answer that until the cows come home, the way I believe. You know, you can blame it on climate change. You can, because of pollution and man-made stuff, which I think has something to do with it. You can call it a natural cycle in our weather pattern, which is the way I tend to lean, with a combination of both, right? Either way, it doesn't negate the fact that it is what it is, and we have to adjust and we have to make it work on our end somehow, right? Because my garden didn't produce, I had to go in and buy all my food at the store. Now, that might sound commonplace for a lot of folks, but when you're so used to growing 90+% of your food, and then you have to go out and buy 90 or 100% of what you eat for food, that's quite a life change, folks. That is. You have to adjust. I adjusted. So, I don't know, folks. What are you all doing? What are your plans? I don't know, folks. You know, whether it's climate change for whatever reason, it is happening. You know, whether it's a natural cycle that we're going through, whether it's pollution, all the fossil fuels, whether it's whatever you believe, chemicals being dropped from the planes and coming down and creating clouds so we will not have sun. Remember, Bill Gates said they're going to try to limit the sun, right? Well, if that's what's happening, they're doing a damn good job of it, and how evil is that? That's just plain evil. So, in my opinion, it is to form compliance in its people. A hungry belly will just do just about anything for it to be fed. People get pretty desperate. And here in America, a lot of us have been pretty spoiled with the freedom of food, the freedom to grow it, the freedom to buy it. It's on every street corner. It's available. Other countries, they don't know what freedom of food is. They just don't, folks. And we're starting to see that, I believe, with the prices going up, right? The unavailable items out there or the lack of variety out there that we've been seeing. It's getting harder and harder for families to put food on the table. So a lot of them are resorting to growing their own food. But in what's been happening up here in Maine anyway, it's getting pretty hard to grow your own food, and it's getting costly at the store to go buy it. So if this trend keeps up, we're in trouble. We're in trouble, folks, and if you believe it's all by design, then they're doing a pretty damn good job of it, right? They're just doing it slowly so there's not a panic. They're doing it slowly so people will slowly adjust, that long, slow boil, right? What do you believe in anymore? You can go in a million directions on your thoughts. You can go on assumptions. It doesn't negate the fact that it doesn't matter how or why it's doing it and where we are. The point is, we are here. We are here and having to deal with it, so we need to adjust. And a lot of people just are having a hard time comprehending what is happening in the world. I get that. I have a hard time believing that they want to depopulate the world. I have a hard time believing the evilness in that. But you add 2 and 2 together, folks, and it's coming up with 5. It's not coming up with 4. It's coming up with number 5. 2 plus 2 is 5. I know on my old channel I covered that. 2 plus 2 is 5, and boy, oh boy, it doesn't equal 2 and 2 is not 4 in today's world.